Hey, in the last video, I showed you how the development of my indie game has progressed over the last 2 years. And at the end of that video, I said this. There's still a lot to do, but once that's done, I'm planning on releasing a little demo version on Steam. So it's been 2 years of working on this game in my free time, and so far, basically no one but me has played it. Up until now, the entire testing of the game has been done by myself and occasionally some of my friends. But as a developer of the game, I suffer from something called developer blindness. Developer blindness means the person who designs the mechanics always knows exactly how they're supposed to be used and played. This makes it impossible to truly replicate an unbiased user experience. Even though I've been working on this game for 2 years, it never felt ready to be played by anyone else. There was just always something missing or something that needed fixing. To be honest, I still feel that way. But realistically, the game might never feel entirely ready for me, since there's always something to add or polish. Regardless, the game isn't even close to being finished. Actually, there's not a lot of structure yet, and there isn't much content, but I think it's good enough now for people to start testing the controls and core mechanics. But before making the game accessible to anyone, I had a couple things to do. Before we dive in, I finally created a Discord server for Isocore. It's a chill space to hang out, discuss the game, share ideas, and maybe participate in some community votes. And I'll also post some behind the scenes updates from time to time. If that sounds interesting to you, there's a link in the description. I'd love to see you there. To start off, I had to wrap up some unfinished work. I've recently merged the old inventory and building menus into a single system that handles both crafting and building placement. Buildings are crafted like regular items and can be stored in your inventory or in chests like anything else. This made things more intuitive and much cleaner. So, I picked up where I left off and reworked the chest UI to match the main inventory. Because, yeah, the old one was pretty bad. Since I was already there, I also adjusted the crafting UI to follow the same style, making the entire UI more cohesive. I think it's generally a good idea to have one consistent UI style for all the mechanics in the game. However, up until now, the entire UI was just a display showing which slot contained which item. The obvious missing function was the ability to drag items around and between slots. To make this possible and also more efficient from a development perspective, I reworked the way that objects like chests and the inventory stored items. Adding this also made transferring items in and out of storage feel much more natural. On top, now if your inventory gets too cluttered or too full, you can just throw stuff out. The next thing I tackled was the controls. I experimented with different key layouts to find something comfortable. Eventually, I will add full key binding and controller support, but for now I needed at least a solid default setup that works for most people. To help new players, I also added a basic tutorial system. It's nothing fancy, just a few helpful text boxes that pop in the beginning and on important achievements, explaining the main controls and giving you a small task to make sure you've understood the basics. The goal is to get people playing quickly without needing to guess what button does what for 30 minutes. By the way, if you like the project and want to support it, consider wishlisting Isocore on Steam through the link in my description. That would be great help. One of the most common pieces of feedback from the last video concerned item pickups. People wanted items to be magnetic and the pickup notifications to stack. So that's exactly what I did. Now, when collecting multiple identical items, notifications stack instead of flooding your screen, and items on the ground have a small radius in which they are magnetic to the player, making pickup smoother. Of course, I spent considerable time addressing and fixing bugs. I addressed terrain loading issues, UI glitches, mob problems, you name it. Not super exciting to show in a video, but essential for playability. In general, I spent more than half of the time in this project on hundreds of little things like making processing progress even when the object is not loaded, making chests and buildings drop their content when destroyed, adding settings for everything in the game, adding a sprite swap or animation for processing buildings when they're active. I could go on and on, but I think you get the point. This is actually one of the biggest factors when it comes to demotivation. Since you spend days and days working on your project, and at the end it looks basically the same on the surface and the progress feels really slow. But enough complaining. Between tasks, I took some time here and there to add some more variety to the game's vegetation. I added more tree variations of different colors to break up the overwhelming green of the forest. I also added multiple mushroom types to each biome and more ores and resources like copper, clay, and limestone. Also, the fire pit, which was just decoration before, now allows you to skip the night if you want to. One persistent frustration I've noticed during testing was excessive backtracking. If you build a base and then need to gather materials far away, walking all the way back can become repetitive and doesn't really add any real value. It often results in long periods where the player is just walking without any interesting interactions. To address this, the player now spawns with the main pillar that serves as the respawn point. You can pick up and move this pillar to set the spawn point wherever you like. Most importantly, you can now fast travel back to the main pillar from anywhere by holding down a button, significantly reducing unnecessary backtracking and also making the entire game loop much faster and also more fun in my opinion. Currently, this teleporting feature is limited by a cooldown that resets every few minutes to avoid spamming, but in the future I might implement a more interactive limitation like requiring a resource or item to use that fast travel. Tools were something missing in the game for a long time. They provide progression and reduce frustration in repetitive tasks. Initially, I added a sword, pickaxe, and axe to speed up resource gathering and fighting. But tools are also great for unlocking abilities. For example, crafting a shovel now unlocks the ability to dig up and place blocks on the ground, as well as gathering resources like clay that you couldn't collect before. After the shovel, I added a hoe, which when crafted unlocks the ability to grow crops by converting a normal block into soil. With that, I had replaced all of the old menus with tools and the inventory. I gotta say that using tools instead of some UI really feels much more immersive and lets the game feel less like a city builder. After having implemented the base set of tools, I expanded the tool set with 3 tool types: copper, iron, and steel. Harder resources like iron and gold now require to craft lower gear first for you to being able to access them. One particular thing I really liked from games like Zelda Breath of the Wild or Minecraft is that tools and weapons don't last forever. It gives your gear more value and forces you to manage them and think what tool to use when and where. In regard to that, I added durability for tools that is now displayed via this bar. The last thing I did was update and add new sounds to round out the gaming experience. I added ambient sounds for each biome, specific sounds for each material when hit, tool interactions, object and block placement, mob sounds, and an updated set of UI sounds. Throughout development, I occasionally composed short, relaxing piano pieces for background music. To implement this music, I added a script that randomly plays these pieces periodically, as they're not tied to any specific theme at the moment. As mentioned previously, I plan to release a public demo, but for now, I don't feel like the game is ready enough for that. However, I'm entering a phase where player feedback would be a great help. As you may have noticed, I don't have a sponsor for this video, which was intentionally. I've decided that I want to try to finance this project and give you people the possibility to test the game at the same time. So from now on, if you want to support Isocore and get early access, becoming a Patreon member allows you to be a playtester. Patreon members will get a Steam key for the playable version of the game, receive regular updates as new builds come out, get access to exclusive channels on the Discord for feedback and discussions, and when the game releases, any members who contributed the final price or more over the lifetime will get a free copy, of course. I will be releasing a public demo in the future, but for now, limited testing helps me shape gameplay and identify issues effectively. However, before becoming a Patreon member, please understand that the game isn't fully playable yet. It has bugs, limited content, and incomplete loops. Patreon playtesting is meant for those who want to support the development and influence its direction. If you want a polished experience, I recommend waiting for the public demo or the official release. To sum up, joining Patreon makes sense if you genuinely wish to support the project's development. If you're interested in supporting, it truly means the world to me. Initially, the game was just a casual side project during university, but now I'm investing more and more time in taking it more seriously, and every bit of support helps greatly. The playtest is now available for Windows, Linux, and Mac. So that's where the game stands now. I hope you like the new additions and the game's direction. As said, I'm taking this project more seriously now and will upload more regularly. If you like or dislike anything or have ideas you'd love to see in the game, leave them in the comments. Every bit of feedback is appreciated. If you enjoy the project, consider wishlisting the game on Steam for free. And if you want to playtest early, consider joining Patreon. Both links are in the description. Regardless, I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.